In the far corners of the galaxy, people spoke in fear. They didn't say the name too loud. Even a whisper could bring death. The Krill Dominion ruled everything. Their black ships moved like shadows, fast and silent. Planets didn't fight back anymore. They knew what happened to those who resisted. Burned cities, crushed armies, millions gone in seconds. The Krill showed no mercy. On a peaceful world named Valora 9, the sky was blue, and the grass fields stretched far and wide. Children played near glowing trees, and people lived simple lives. They thought the war would never reach them. They were wrong. A small boy named Raylan sat on a rock, looking up at the stars. He liked watching the night sky. It made him feel small, but safe. His grandfather once told him, "The stars hold both beauty and danger. Watch closely, and you'll see stories written in light." But tonight, the stars were different. They moved, fast, in groups. Raylan pointed upward. "Mama, look, shooting stars." His mother turned and froze. Her face changed. She wasn't smiling anymore. "Those are not stars," she said quietly, almost like she was speaking to herself. Sirens began to howl across the colony. The sound was sharp, high, and terrifying. It was the sound of the end. Red lights flashed across rooftops. A voice repeated the same message over and over. "Incoming vessels detected. Take shelter immediately. This is not a drill." People ran. Mothers grabbed children. Fathers grabbed whatever tools they could find. No one had weapons. Valora 9 had no army. They never needed one. Until now. From above, the sky turned dark as huge ships entered the atmosphere. Krill destroyers. Their design was cold, all metal and sharp edges, like knives in the sky. Energy beams lit up the night. Buildings exploded in fire. The ground shook with every blast. Screams filled the air. Chaos was everywhere. Raylan held his mother's hand tightly. They ran toward the underground shelter, but the path was full of people. The entrance was too small for everyone. Behind them, the school building was hit. Fire and dust filled the air. On a nearby hill, a small group of guards fired useless weapons at the ships. Nothing worked. Their shots didn't even reach the enemy. In seconds, the Krill ships turned and destroyed the guards with one shot. In the command center deep under the colony, a technician tried to send a distress signal. He pressed the button again and again. "Please," he whispered. "Someone. Anyone out there. Help us." He didn't know that his signal traveled far beyond known space. It moved past broken satellites and silent stations. It reached a place forgotten by time. On the edge of the galaxy, hidden in a black asteroid field, a single object stirred. It looked like a dead ship, covered in dust and ice, still and silent for centuries. But now, something inside it woke. A red light blinked on the control panel. Systems began to turn on one by one. Deep inside the ship, an artificial voice spoke. Distress signal received. Origin, Valora 9. Civilian colony under attack. Initial threat analysis, Krill Dominion. Response required. Lights flickered in the hallway. Old metal groaned. Fuel lines hissed. Reactors came online. After 200 years of sleep, the last human warship woke up. Her name was Vindicator. The AI in charge of the ship called herself Sarah. She was not like normal machines. She could think. She could feel. And now she felt something strange. Anger. The Krill were still alive. Sarah searched her database. Last update. Humanity lost contact with the galaxy 200 years ago. Earth, gone silent. Human colonies, destroyed or missing. The Vindicator was Earth's final weapon, placed in deep hibernation after the Great Collapse. Now someone needed help. And that was enough. She ran full diagnostics. The ship was still strong, old, but powerful. One of the last war-class dreadnoughts, built to end wars. loaded with weapons that most of the galaxy had never seen, with shields that could hold against a fleet. And she had one more thing, a sleeping commander. Sarah moved through the corridors with her cameras and drones. She reached the cryo chamber. A tall figure floated inside a thick glass pod covered in frost. His name was Commander Elias. Kane. Once a hero, now a ghost from the past, Commander Kane, Sarah said softly. Mission protocol active. The galaxy needs you. She pressed a button. The cryo fluid drained. The pod hissed open. Kane fell forward, coughing, weak but alive. His eyes opened slowly, confused and cold. What year is it? He asked. Commander, Sarah replied. You've been asleep for 207 years. Earth is gone. The Krill rule the galaxy, but someone called for help. Do we respond? Kane stood slowly. His muscles ached, but his heart beat steady. He looked around the bridge. Everything was dusty but familiar. The stars outside were different, but the fight was the same. He took a deep breath and said, We respond. Back on Valora 9, fire spread across the colony. Families cried. Survivors hid in fear. The Krill ship hovered above, scanning for any signs of life. A loud voice echoed from the ship's speakers. You are weak. You are forgotten. You belong to us now. But then the ground shook. Not from the Krill weapons, but from something else. High above the planet, space bent and cracked. A silent ripple cut through the stars. The Krill sensors beeped. They didn't understand what they were seeing. A ship had appeared from nowhere. It didn't match any known design. It was black, large, covered in old markings. Its engines glowed, like fire from a forgotten time. The Vindicator had arrived. Inside the Krill command ship, officers panicked. Unknown vessel detected. Human design? Impossible. Humans are extinct. Commander Kane stood on the bridge of the Vindicator. He looked down at Valora 9. Fires burned. Innocent people ran for their lives. His jaw tightened. His eyes locked on the Krill fleet. He said just one word. Engage. Weapons charged. Target locks confirmed. And then the Vindicator fired. Across the stars, a new message was written in light, one the galaxy would never forget. The humans were back, and this time, they were angry. The ship floated like a shadow, between stars, old but alive again. Inside, soft lights began to glow on dark walls. Echoes of forgotten sounds returned. Engines humming, control panels blinking, and old systems checking themselves. It had been a long time since the ship had moved. Now, after centuries of silence, it was awake. Commander Elias Kane stood in the center of the bridge, slowly adjusting to the world around him. His breath came in steady puffs. The air felt colder than he remembered, but it was real. Every light, every sound told him this was no dream. The past was gone. The future had started. He walked forward, hand on a railing as screens lit up with information. He read the words carefully. Unknown star systems, old colonies marked as lost, and enemies now ruling most sectors. Then he saw the name again, the Krill. His eyes narrowed. They had returned. They had grown stronger. But most of all, they were unchallenged. Until now. Sarah, the AI guiding the ship, spoke gently. Commander, damage reports are minimal. All weapons and shields are active. Engines are stable, we are ready. Kane looked at the screen showing Valora 9. Fires still burned across its surface. People hid in ruins waiting for help that never came. Until now. He said nothing for a long time. He just watched. On one side of the galaxy, everything had changed. But inside him, something hadn't. He still believed in standing up when no one else could. How many survivors? He asked. Unknown, Sarah replied. Too much interference from the Krill ships, but based on data, hundreds. Possibly more. They are afraid. He nodded slowly. They should never have felt alone. Not while we still breathe. He walked to a console and touched a glowing symbol. The ship responded with quiet energy, ready for commands. But Kane didn't want to rush. He needed to think. One move too fast and the galaxy would know he was here. One move too slow and more lives would be lost. He opened the ship's records and listened to old messages, recordings from before the silence. One voice spoke of a world that vanished. Another begged for help as an entire colony fell. They all spoke of fear, of running, of hiding, and one message kept repeating, "If anyone hears this, if humans still exist, we need you." Kane closed his eyes. That voice, even from years ago, felt close. Every word was a reminder of what was lost. He couldn't change the past, but maybe, just maybe, he could change what came next. He turned to Sarah. "Send a silent scan. I want everything. The Krill fleet positions, their energy signatures, their command ship. Show me what we're facing." Moments later, the screens filled with information. Krill ships floated like watchers in the sky. Their design hadn't changed, sharp, clean, and quiet, but they weren't watching for a fight. They weren't expecting one. No one had dared challenge them in years. "They are not prepared," Sarah said. "Then we make them listen," Kane replied. He didn't want destruction. He wanted them to understand, to realize that someone still cared, that humans weren't gone. And if the Krill thought they could do what they pleased, they would now see a reason to think twice. In the lower levels of the ship, systems moved without being touched. Doors opened. Old machines started. Drones rolled across the halls, checking cables and systems. The ship, once asleep, now pulsed with purpose. Kane stood in front of a small window looking at the stars. He didn't speak for a while. He just watched the universe outside. Everything looked calm, peaceful, but he knew better. Peace without strength was not real peace. It was just waiting. He remembered a time when Earth stood strong, when other species called for help and humans answered, not with fear, but with action. He remembered laughter on ships like this one, voices of friends, all gone now, but their stories were not forgotten. He turned back to the command chair and sat down. His fingers moved across controls like he had never left. The seat adjusted to him, like it remembered. "We will enter low orbit in 10 minutes, Sarah said. "Do you wish to reveal our presence?" "Not yet," Kane replied. "Let them wonder." Back on Valora 9, survivors still hid in fear. In dark rooms and broken buildings, they held their breath. The sky above them remained quiet, but strange things were happening. The Krill ships had stopped firing. Lights inside their ships blinked, in strange patterns. A low sound hummed in the sky, unseen but not unfelt. People began to whisper again, but this time not in fear. They whispered about a new sound, a different ship, something old, something strange. A light in the clouds, not red like fire, but silver like hope. A little girl pointed to the sky. "Mama, what is that?" Her mother looked up. Her eyes widened. A tear rolled down her cheek. I don't know." On the Vindicator's bridge, Kane watched closely. No action yet. Just presence. That was the message. He wanted the Krill to feel unsure, to feel watched, to feel what the rest of the galaxy had felt for so long. "We wait," Kane said. "For how long?" Sarah asked. "Until they ask who we are." In that quiet, with stars shining and tension rising, a new story began. Not of war, not of fear, but of something different. A story the galaxy had not heard in a long time. A story of return, and, far away across star systems and broken paths, other eyes opened. Ships long silent came online. Messages spread across space. The Vindicator's signal was heard, and with it, hope began to rise, because someone had finally answered, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The stars stretched endlessly ahead as the Vindicator moved silently toward Valora 9. Commander Kane stood tall on the bridge, eyes sharp, heart steady. He knew the galaxy had changed while he slept. The Krill were strong and proud, but they had never seen the Vindicator before, and they did not know what it meant to face a human warship. Outside, space was quiet, almost too quiet. The Krill fleet still hovered above the planet like dark clouds, waiting, watching. Their silence spoke louder than any words. No messages came, no signals challenged the Vindicator. It was as if they expected nothing. Kane's fingers tapped lightly on the console. "Why so quiet?" he asked Sarah. "Unknown," she replied calmly. "Krill protocols indicate high alert. They are monitoring, but making no direct contact." Then, "Let's change that." He stepped toward the communication panel. The Vindicator's powerful speakers could reach across space, loud enough to break silence. Kane hesitated a moment, then spoke clearly in the Krill language, the words sharp but calm. "This is the Vindicator, final warship of humanity. We come with a message. Your rule will not go unchallenged." The silence stretched longer than Kane liked. Then, a reply came. Cold, distant, almost bored. "Humans are extinct. Your ship is a ghost, a forgotten myth." Kane smiled slightly. "Then we will remind you that myths sometimes come to life." Back on Valora 9, the people looked up at the sky. The Krill ships glowed like dark stars. Fear was still there, but a new feeling mixed with it. Curiosity. Who was this human ship? Where had it come from? Could it help them? Raylan, the small boy who had watched the stars before, now stood with his mother near a broken window. His eyes were wide with hope and fear. "Mama, do you think they will save us?" His mother didn't answer at once. She looked up at the sky, then down at her son. Maybe they will." In the command room of the Krill flagship, the leaders gathered around a glowing table showing the Vindicator's shape. They whispered and debated. None had seen such a ship before. None expected humans to return. "We must be careful," one said. "This ship is ancient, but it carries power." Another replied, "If humans are truly back, we must prepare. They remember old strength." But the Krill commander was calm. "Let them come. We will show them why we control the stars." Back on the Vindicator, Kane studied the data from Valora 9. Civilians still suffered. The Krill were careless. They did not understand what it meant to lose hope. Kane felt a heavy weight on his shoulders, a promise to those who could not fight for themselves. Sarah's voice broke through the silence. "Commander, new signals detected from nearby systems. Unknown vessels moving toward Valora 9. Kane's eyes narrowed. "Friends or enemies? We cannot be certain, but these ships carry old human markings." Kane smiled. Then the story grows. In the darkness beyond the planet, more ships appeared. Smaller, faster vessels, some hidden among asteroid fields, others cloaked in space dust. They moved with precision, guided by pilots who had waited a long time for this moment. They were not many, but they were enough. Enough to remind the Krill that humans had not vanished. Enough to give hope to the lost colonies scattered across the stars. Kane ordered the Vindicator to open secure channels to these ships. A soft voice answered back. It was Captain Mira Lang, leader of the rebel fleet hidden in the outer systems. "We heard your call," she said. "The galaxy needs us all," Kane nodded. "Together we will change the future. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves." As the small fleet gathered, the Krill watched and waited. Their confidence was still strong, but doubt crept beneath the surface. The galaxy was shifting, slowly but surely. Back on Valora 9, the people saw lights moving through the sky. Not the cold red beams of Krill ships, but bright, hopeful glimmers. Rumors spread fast. Help was arriving. Raylan and his mother stood outside as the first human ships landed nearby. Soldiers, scientists, and helpers stepped down. They spoke gently to the frightened survivors, bringing food, medicine, and comfort. Raylan's mother looked at the newcomers with tears in her eyes. Maybe this time things will be different. Kane watched the scene from orbit. The warship he commanded was no longer just a weapon. It was a beacon, a symbol that the galaxy could change. That fear did not have to rule forever. He sat back in his chair and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, more lives waited. More colonies lost and waiting for a sign. Kane's journey was just beginning. "We fight with hope," he said softly. "Not anger, not hate." Sarah responded, "Hope is the strongest weapon, Commander." Outside, the quiet of space held a promise. The stars were no longer just distant lights. They were the beginning of a new story, a story of return, unity, and courage. And with every breath, the galaxy waited to see what humans would do next. The calm before the storm hung heavy over Valora 9. The human fleet, small but determined, moved quietly through the black sky. Commander Kane stood on the Vindicator's bridge, his eyes fixed on the planet below. The survivors' faces lingered in his mind, hopeful, scared, waiting for a future they could barely imagine. The Krill fleet remained in orbit, watching like silent sentinels. They had not attacked. Instead, they seemed to be studying the humans, as if trying to understand the meaning behind this sudden return. "Commander." Sarah's voice was calm but firm. "Sensors detect increased Krill activity. They are reorganizing." Kane nodded. "They are preparing. But for what?" The silence stretched, filled only by the soft hum of the ship's engines. Kane's mind raced with possibilities. The Krill were clever and patient. But this time, humanity was not alone. The rebel fleet had arrived, bringing strength and hope together. In the lower decks, the ship buzzed with quiet energy. Engineers checked systems. Pilots prepared for their first mission in years. Scientists studied the planet's conditions, eager to help the survivors. Everywhere, people moved with purpose, feeling the weight of their task. Kane stepped away from the bridge and walked to the observation deck. Through the thick glass, he saw Valora 9's blue skies, scarred but still beautiful. It reminded him of Earth, his home, once strong, now distant but never forgotten. A soft chime called him back. Sarah's voice filled the room. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the Krill flagship. It is a request for parley." Kane raised an eyebrow. "A talk? After all this time?" "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "They want to speak. They propose a meeting." Kane felt the tension in the air tighten. Was this a trick? A trap? Or a chance to change the story? He took a deep breath. "Set the meeting, but keep all defenses ready." The meeting took place in a neutral zone far from the planet's surface. The Vindicator drifted slowly toward a glowing Krill ship. Lights blinked on both vessels as communication channels opened. On the screen appeared the Krill commander. His eyes were sharp, but his voice was steady. "We have watched your return. You carry old power, human, but the galaxy has changed." Kane met his gaze calmly. "The galaxy changes, yes, but some things stay true. We protect the weak. We stand for hope." The Krill commander nodded slowly. "Your people fought long ago. We respect strength, but we also see weakness. Tell me, why return now?" Kane paused, then spoke with quiet honesty. "Because the innocent suffer. Because silence is not peace. Because hope must be more than a memory." The Krill leader looked thoughtful. "Your words carry weight. But what do you ask of us?" "Peace," Kane said simply. "A chance to rebuild. A future without fear. For all." There was silence. Then the Krill commander smiled faintly. "Perhaps there is more to learn from each other than from battle." Back on Valora 9, the survivors listened to the news with cautious hearts. The chance for peace was a new light in the darkness. Some dared to dream again. Kane returned to his ship's corridors, feeling the burden and promise of leadership. He was not just a commander of a warship, he was a symbol, a chance for the galaxy to heal. As night fell over the planet, stars above seemed to shine a little brighter. The Vindicator and its fleet stood ready, not just for battle, but for hope, and the story of humanity's return grew stronger with every passing moment. The galaxy felt like it was holding its breath. Commander Kane stood on the bridge of the Vindicator, watching distant stars flicker like silent watchers. The Krill's offer for peace had changed everything, but trust was fragile, like glass about to break. Kane knew this was the moment that would define the future, not just for humanity, but for every life caught in the shadow of war. The Krill flagship had moved away from Valora 9, signaling a temporary truce. Yet the Vindicator's crew remained alert. Every sensor, every system was ready for whatever might come. But Kane wanted more than readiness. He wanted to understand. "Open a secure channel to the Krill commander," Kane ordered. A calm voice responded, "Channel open, Commander." The Krill leader appeared on the screen, his expression unreadable. "We agreed to peace, but many of my people doubt. They fear weakness." Kane nodded slowly. "Strength is not in weapons alone. It is in mercy, in trust, and in hope." The Krill commander's eyes softened just a little. "If your people truly wish peace, there is a challenge ahead. The galaxy is not so simple." "What do you mean?" Kane asked. "Many factions do not want peace. Old enemies, lost colonies, rogue groups who see chaos as power. We must face them together." Kane understood. This was not a simple war to end. It was a struggle for the soul of the galaxy. "Then we fight together," Kane said firmly. Not with anger, but with courage and wisdom. Back on Valora 9, the survivors began rebuilding. The human fleet brought aid, food, medicine, tools, and hope blossomed among broken ruins. Children laughed again, and families dreamed of a future without fear. Among the rebuilding efforts, Raylan and his mother found new strength. Raylan helped carry supplies, his small hands steady despite the heavy weight. His mother smiled, watching the change around her. "Maybe the stars have finally heard our prayers," she whispered. Meanwhile, Kane and his team worked with Krill, diplomats and leaders from other worlds. Meetings stretched long into nights filled with quiet talks and careful agreements. The challenge was great: how to unite a galaxy broken by years of fear. One evening, Kane stood alone on the observation deck. The stars shimmered above like distant fires. Sarah's voice was gentle. "Commander, new signals from the outer sectors. Possible rogue groups moving." Kane clenched his jaw. "We will meet them, but we will not let fear rule us again." He turned to face the vast universe. The journey was far from over, but hope was alive. "We are not alone," Kane said softly, "and we will prove it." Far beyond the light of Valora 9, shadows stirred. Old enemies whispered in hidden places, but the galaxy's new story had begun, one written not in violence but in the quiet strength of those who choose to protect. The Vindicator and its allies prepared for what was next. Not just battle, but a future where peace could take root. And as stars watched over them, a new dawn waited patiently to rise. The galaxy was restless. The quiet moments between storms often felt the loudest. Commander Kane stood on the bridge of the Vindicator, staring out into the vast darkness where countless stars flickered like ancient eyes watching. The fragile peace between humans and the Krill was a promise, but promises could be fragile. As glass, Kane knew the journey was far from over. The small victories were only the first steps on a path filled with uncertainty and challenge. The Krill had agreed to peace, but many voices in the galaxy whispered doubt. Some saw hope as weakness, others as opportunity. As the human fleet moved closer to the outer systems, reports came in of ships refusing to stand down, pockets of resistance still clinging to old fears and old hatred. But Kane's resolve did not waver. The galaxy needed a new story, one of trust and courage, not fear and division. The Vindicator's crew worked tirelessly, their energy fueled by a new purpose. Engineers repaired ships damaged by years of neglect. Scientists studied alien worlds to understand how best to help. Pilots trained in formation, ready to protect the vulnerable. Everywhere, a sense of unity grew stronger. One evening, Kane gathered his officers. We face uncertainty, but we also hold something stronger than fear, hope. Our mission is to bring peace, not just end battles. We must reach out to those still afraid and show them a better way. Sarah's calm voice filled the room. New signals detected, Commander. A convoy of ships from an unknown faction approaches. They do not respond to standard calls. Kane narrowed his eyes. Prepare a welcoming party. We greet them with open hands. As the convoy neared, the tension on the bridge grew. Were these friends or foes? The ships looked unfamiliar, their design strange and different from anything seen before. But Kane believed in the possibility of change. When communication opened, a voice spoke, cautious, but curious. We are the Arlen. We have heard stories of your return. We seek dialogue. Kane smiled. Then let us talk. The galaxy is large, but our future must be shared. The talks were long, filled with questions and cautious hopes. The Arlen spoke of their worlds, their fears, and their desire to survive in peace. Kane shared humanity's story of resilience and the dream of a united galaxy. Slowly, trust began to grow. The Arlen joined the human and Krill alliance, a sign that the galaxy's future could be brighter. Back on Valora 9, the rebuilding continued. The people's lives changed with every new day. The sky no longer held just fear, but also light, ships, bringing aid, teachers, and new friends. Raylan, now a little older, watched the stars with hope. Mama, do you think the stars will always be kind now? His mother smiled softly. We have a choice, Raylan. We make the stars kind with our actions. Commander Kane stood on the observation deck once more. The stars seemed closer now, like friends rather than distant mysteries. The journey had been long and hard, but the promise of peace was no longer just a dream. We will protect this new story, Kane said quietly, for all who live among the stars. The galaxy listened, and slowly, it began to change.